The transport ship drifted toward the grand station that orbited the pale blue world below. Inside the ship, a human named Rowan sat with his gear packed tight at his feet. He had been sent as a representative of the frontier colonies to attend a diplomatic summit. He expected long negotiations and formal speeches. He did not expect anything extraordinary. He certainly did not expect an encounter that would follow him for the rest of his life. The station loomed larger in the viewport. As the ship approached, its silver rings spun in balanced rotation, catching light from the distant star and scattering it like shards of crystal. Rowan watched it with calm interest. He had been to many stations, but this one had a quiet beauty that felt alive. When the ship docked, Rowan stepped out and followed the assigned escort toward the central hall. Delegates from many species walked through the corridors. Some were tall and scaled. Some were small and feathered. Some moved in graceful floating gestures. Humans were still rare in this part of space. A few delegates turned when they saw him. Rowan gave a polite nod, but kept moving. The escort led him into a reception chamber where diplomats were gathering. Rowan scanned the room. He had studied the species present at the summit. He recognized many of their symbols. He took a place near one of the curved walls and waited for instructions. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. Then the main doors opened. The room grew still. Guards stepped in first. They wore polished armor with tones of deep gold. After them walked a figure with a calm, serene stride. She was the princess of the Lumaran Dominion. Her name was Lyra. She was known for her composure and her sharp insight. She rarely traveled alone. When she entered a space, she carried an aura that made others straighten. Her appearance was luminous. Her skin held a soft, pale glow. Her hair flowed like thin silver strands. Her eyes were deep violet with shifting light patterns inside. She wore garments woven with smooth metallic threads that caught the illumination of the chamber. All conversation ceased. Delegates bowed or placed hands on their chests in greeting. Lyra moved forward with steady grace. She did not look left or right. Not until her gaze reached Rowan. She stopped cold. She froze so abruptly that her guards stiffened and reached for their weapons. A murmur traveled through the hall. Rowan felt every eye in the room shift toward him. He did not move. He simply watched her closely and waited for a non-explanation. Lyra stared at him with an expression that he could not read. Shock, recognition, something deeper, something she could not hide. The escort beside Rowan stepped back in confusion. He whispered that Rowan should bow. Rowan did so out of courtesy. When he rose, he found that Lyra had taken a step toward him. Her guards moved as well, but she raised a hand and they stopped. She studied Rowan as if she had seen him before. Rowan wondered if she mistook him for someone else. Humans rarely visited Lumaran space. Most Lumaran had never met one. Rowan had certainly never met her. Lyra spoke in a soft voice. It carried through the entire room. She asked Rowan where he came from and why he was there. Rowan answered with steady tone. He explained that he represented the frontier colonies. He explained his role. Lyra listened with quiet intensity. Then she asked a question that puzzled him. She asked if his family kept records of ancestral journeys. Rowan explained that his family lived in a small settlement on a distant world. They kept only simple logs. She asked more details. He answered each question with patience. Delegates exchanged puzzled looks. The princess was known for her measured behavior. Yet she seemed shaken. Her eyes did not leave Rowan even once. When the reception ended, Rowan expected that she would speak with him again. She did not. She left the chamber as soon as the formal greetings ended. Her guards followed her at close distance. Delegates whispered among themselves. Rowan heard fragments of their conversations. They wondered why the princess had reacted that way. None of them had an answer. Rowan spent the rest of the day attending orientation briefings. He tried to push aside the moment, but it kept returning. To him, the look in her eyes had been too strong to ignore. Something about him had startled her. Something she recognized. The next morning he received a formal message requesting his presence in one of the private wings of the station. It bore the seal of the Lumaran Dominion. Rowan prepared himself and followed the directions through a long corridor filled with gentle silver light. Two of the golden-armored guards waited for him. They saluted him in a gesture that was not common for non-Lumaran visitors. They led him inside a spacious chamber that looked more like a sanctuary than a diplomatic room. Transparent walls revealed the curve of the planet below. The space was quiet and filled with soft warmth. Lyra stood near the window with her hands folded. When she turned toward him, she carried the same calm presence as the previous day, though her expression held something more controlled now. She thanked him for coming. Rowan greeted her with formal politeness. She dismissed the guards. They left without hesitation. Rowan and Lyra stood alone in the chamber. She looked at him again with that same deep gaze. She said that she had been unprepared for their first meeting. She said that she did not wish to repeat that reaction. She asked if she could speak openly. Rowan agreed. Lyra told him a story. Her voice remained steady, though emotion ran beneath it. She explained that long before she was born, her people had survived a crisis. The Lumaran Dominion had faced a threat from an aggressive species that sought to conquer their worlds. At that time, the Lumaran had limited defense capabilities. Their systems were falling. Their hope was fading. A small group of travelers from the edge of human space had entered the region during that conflict. They had been explorers and soldiers and researchers. They had not been part of any major fleet. Yet they fought alongside the Lumaran. They defended settlements. They gave assistance without asking anything in return. One of those human travelers had become a symbol among the Lumaran. He had protected the royal family during an attack on their homeworld. He had saved them at the cost of his own life. His name had been recorded only as Rowan. Rowan listened with stillness. He had never heard such a story. He had known that humans had traveled far long before the frontier expansion, but most records were scattered or destroyed over generations. Families did not preserve every detail. Many journeys were forgotten. Lyra continued. She said that portraits of that old human traveler still existed in their archives. They were faded, but the features remained distinct. When she had seen Rowan in the reception hall, she had felt as if she had seen that same traveler return from the past. The resemblance had been too precise. Rowan absorbed her words with slow understanding. He asked if she believed he was connected to that traveler. She said that the possibility was strong. She said that her people believed that memory lived through generations in ways that records could not fully capture. Lyra stepped closer. She studied his face again. She said that a Lumaran elder had once predicted that a descendant of that traveler would return to their space when the Dominion reached a turning point. She said that her reaction the previous day had come from the shock of realizing that he might be that descendant. Rowan felt a quiet weight settle inside him. He had never cared much about family legends. He had never looked beyond the simple stories he heard as a child. Yet hearing this from her stirred something inside him, something that felt ancient. Lyra asked him if he remembered any stories from his own family about old journeys or distant alliances. Rowan thought back to his early years. He remembered his grandfather telling him about a distant ancestor who had traveled into unknown regions and had helped a lost people. He had thought it was only a simple tale. His grandfather had spoken of bravery and sacrifice, but had not given details. Rowan had never connected that story to anything real. He told Lyra this. Her eyes softened. She said that legends often held truth, even when they faded into simple stories. She walked to a table and activated a small device. A hologram appeared. It showed a human figure in an old-style suit. The image was faint but visible. Rowan looked at it with quiet shock. The figure resembled him, the jawline, the brow, the posture. It was as if he looked at a distant reflection. Lyra said that this was the human who had defended her ancestors. She said that this was the one the Lumaran honored. Rowan felt an unfamiliar pressure in his chest. He asked why she showed him this. She said that the Lumaran believed descendants carried echoes of those who came before them. She said that seeing him had felt like meeting a piece of her own history. They stood in silence for a moment. The star shined through the transparent wall, casting a gentle radiance across the room. Lyra asked Rowan if he wished to explore the archives with her. She said that understanding his past might strengthen the bond between their people. Rowan agreed. They spent hours going through old records. They studied fragments of logs and recovered transmissions. Many were broken. Some were only partial. Yet each piece revealed more about the traveler and his role in the conflict. Rowan learned that the traveler had not been a soldier by birth. He had been a simple explorer who found himself in the center of a war. He had chosen to help the Lumaran because he could not ignore suffering. He had defended their world when no one else could reach it in time. He had given his life to ensure that the royal line survived. Lyra EXP